Hello and welcome back to the Real Music Talks. Today's guest is Evie, also known as Genietunes. She is a DJ and film runner from London. How you doing, Evie?
I'm doing pretty good. Pretty good. Sleeping and recovering from the week, but definitely good.
Good to hear. So for people that have never heard of you before, can you describe briefly what you do, and what your musical style is as a DJ?
Well, I mainly mix disco things, anything with a funky bass line, I'm completely there. But also house, garage, a little bit of breaks from time to time, just lots of different stuff. I think I grew up with so many different kinds of music that I don't want to just play disco. And I remember when before I even started DJing, one of the best things anyone said to me was he was making his own set, and he said, when I'm conjuring one together, I always think like, is this interesting for everyone, or is this just interesting for me because I know all of the tracks? And that's always stuck with me. So always trying to switch it up a little bit, but making sure it's massively high energy, easy to dance to, easy for people to have fun with. Yeah.
And where did it all kind of start for you? Can you remember the first thing that got you into music and made you think, oh, this is what I want to do?
Well, my dad is a composer for TV, and so music has just always been around the house. And I remember it was always a thing that like he would go for pitches and learn like a small thing on an instrument that he thought would be cool for the show, and then see if he got the pitch. And if he did, then he would spend the next like 2 weeks learning really random instruments. I remember once it was an accordion, and oh my god, it was the worst 2 weeks of my life because all you hear is accordion music 24/7. But things like that, and I think I always really loved disco, and like growing up, I listened to a lot of top 40 and all of that kind of stuff. But 2000s house music and disco are two things that always really like clung to me. And I think maybe it's because they're both kind of camp. Like, do you remember the music videos for oh my god, things like Benny Benassi's Satisfaction, that kind of stuff, where it's all just like naked women doing stupid things and being really camp.
I don't, but you don't see that these days, really, do you?
No. Well, I think it was so over the top, like sexual, and well, not like sexual, but it was just so cringy and stupid that it always stuck with me, and I always really loved the music from it.
What is it about that kind of style that you're drawn to? Is it just because it's kind of really fun and takes
Yeah,
the seriousness out of it?
I think it's fun, it's high energy, it's usually got some kind of catchy vocal that means that people are easy to sing along with it as well. And I think from my experience of DJing now, and the amount of times people will come up, like whenever people come up to you, it's always two requests, and it's either, can the music be turned up, or do you have tunes with lyrics in that I know? And so like those kind of 2000s house tunes, they've always got something like Don't Call Me Baby, like Benny Benassi Satisfaction, like Put Your Hands Up for Detroit. Like it's easy to sing along to and easy for you to get excited about, even if you don't know the song, because by the second chorus you know everything. You it's an easy song to know. It's not complicated.
So, obviously, your dad being a composer, that must have been quite a big influence. But where did it kind of go from there? So, talk me through the journey.
So my first ever album was Saturday Night Fever, the soundtrack to that, and I listened to that non-stop. And then I spent all of my like teenage years listening to everything, lots of different genres. I remember like my first concert was The Killers, but I've seen Chic, I remember I saw the Dixie Chicks live, and they're like proper country, and I don't even know why. Like I don't really like the Dixie Chicks, but I was just there. And I think, yeah, I listened to everything. And then when I went to uni, and when I turned 18, it flipped so much to club culture and going out and partying and that kind of energy of like when you're with other people in the club and in all of that kind of stuff. So then when I was at uni and I was friends with a bunch of DJs, I decided I really wanted to give it like a shot. I wanted to see if I could, I don't know, like go up to decks at a house party and just be there like, oh yeah, I've got something on my USB and kind of join in, especially because it was a bit of a boys club. So I wanted to like not be someone's girlfriend. I wanted to have like something going for me a bit. So over summer, my ex who played drum and bass, he taught me how to mix on drum and bass, which has massively influenced my mixing because it's so quick and so like he's very choppy with it and all of that kind of stuff. So going from there to mixing disco, I had to really learn to like not mix in a new track every 2 minutes or every 1 minute. I had to actually give things space to breathe and learn how to deal with all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I learned at the end of uni. Then I was kind of practicing my craft and I finished uni in 2019. Then spent ages kind of practicing, rehearsing, doing all of that, learning what kind of stuff I want to play. Released my first mix in January 2020 and got my first gig in March 2020. Yeah. And the first gig was at Disco Stews in Sheffield. And it's such a sick event. It was like 400 people. It was the craziest thing to go from DJing in a bedroom to lots of people listening. Yeah.
I think that, yeah. How did you like feel about that? Were you like nervous, like, or were you just excited?
Oh, full blown. Like, I have anxiety anyways, and after uni I had a big, sorry, heads up, trigger warning, but I had a really big court case for being followed home, and so the night became something that was really scary for me, and so I finished the court case on, I think it was like 3-4 days before my first gig. And so finished that and then going out and kind of like reclaiming the night almost and actually having some power in the night. It was such a moment for me. And I was in a full-blown panic attack for like, because I was playing at 3 as well. So hanging around until 3, trying not to get too, like I was barely drinking because I was just so nervous about throwing up. And then obviously you get on and it's like it all fades away and you're like, oh, cool, this is actually, you know, this is what I want to do with my life. And yeah, it was a real shift.
Yeah, do you think that moment like made it sort of click and then you're just like, oh, this is why I do it kind of thing?
Absolutely. I think, yeah, that moment, because also I was the only girl on the lineup, which, you know, standard. But having a bunch of people, like a bunch of men come up to me being there like, that was sick, you've got bangers, you've got this, you've got that. And it was weird. It was really kind of validating because also the promoter came to me afterwards and was like, I've been hearing about you all night, because all of the other guys just kept on going up to him being there like, that girl is actually, you know, she's okay, she's all right. I was like, that is as close as I can get to a straight man's compliment. That was all I was asking for. Yeah.
I think it'd be good to talk about that a bit. Like, it must be hard, like, you know, being female in that community because it is quite like male orientated. So, like, what experiences have you had with that, and how have you kind of dealt with it?
I mean, the hardest things are always like, if I go to an event, there's I have to be very, very careful about promoters whether they're wanting me to come for a kind of romantic thing. Like I've had lots of people message me being there like, oh, sick, I love your music, I love what you're putting out there, or I loved your gig. And then we'll be chatting and I'll think, oh, amazing, like we're networking, that we'll go mix sometime, it'll be great. And then halfway through they ask me for a drink. And I'm stuck there for like 10 minutes trying to think like, oh, should I be the dickhead and be there like, I'm really sorry, just I'm not interested, and that's not really what I'm wanting, in case that's not what they were thinking at all, or do I put myself in a situation where I'm uncomfortable? I go for this thing thinking we're just going to be friends and mates, and then I'm uncomfortable again. And lots of the time, you just don't get taken seriously. That first gig, I remember my partner at the time was there with me, and a bunch of the DJs just spoke to him, like solely, and everyone just assumed I was the girlfriend that came along for the ride. I mean, you know, it's understandable in the sense that like the whole kind of the industry is very much centered towards men, and so it's almost instinct to not to assume that the woman there is the girlfriend, or the woman there is just a friend. But it shouldn't be that way. I should be respected, and people should be there because they like what I'm doing, and people should be asking the question, oh cool, are you playing tonight? So just assuming.
It's an interesting one because like even in like the sort of, I'm more like in the rock band scene, like I'm used to like, you know, drums, guitar, bass type bands and stuff, but it's a similar thing there. Like it's the same kind of problem, and I just wonder like why it is it because like more women don't have the confidence to actually go and do it, or is it something else, or is it like a societal problem that we're trying to like overcome still, even though we say, oh, you know, women's rights, everyone's equal, but actually it's still a problem, we're not really recognizing it? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I remember seeing a statistic that like, I think something crazy like 80% of female DJs suffer with anxiety. And there is that stereotype of like, oh, I want the confidence of a straight white man, and all of that kind of stuff. I think women know that in order to be good in the industry, you have to be better than three other men. Like you have to be, in order for you to be all right, you have to be really good. There's no such thing as a mediocre female DJ, because they're just gonna get hired again. Because why would you? Because it is a bit of a boys' club, and I think women are just so aware of that, and nightlife in general is so it's so hit and miss with women. So many women have terrible experiences at night and in clubs and with things that are horrible, and so going and deciding for that to be your profession and that to be your main life, going out and partying, it's a step for a woman in a way that it isn't for men.
Okay. Let's move it to like a slightly different topic.
Yeah.
Like thinking about we could go on forever with that one, but I don't want to get on the hole. Um, thinking about like your DJing, the techniques and everything you've learned, like talk about like how you developed from where you started and like how you've learned different things.
Well, like I said, I learned on drum and bass, and so drum and bass is very like mixing new tracks, mixing. And so I remember the first mix I did, it was a 20-minute mix, and I think I used like 17 tracks. Like I listened to it recently, and oh my God, it's a roller coaster. It's insane. But I didn't really have lessons. My ex taught me like simple things like how to cue in something, swap basses, use a bit of filter. And I worked on that for like 3 months, and it's only recently that I'm actually learning to use things like effects and learning. I remember when I found out about looping and memory loops, it blew my brain. I literally I called people I knew, being there like, did you know you could do this? And they were like, yes, that is. Oh, where did you learn to mix? I was like, oh God, okay, well, guess that's something for me. But it's constantly learning and constantly updating. I just asked for scratching lessons because I mix like live drums occasionally. I thought that would be a good way to transition like from one track to another without having to constantly beat match and not having to find specific loops and all that kind of stuff and make it more of a statement to mix into something else. And that's something I'm really excited to learn to do, because I feel like, you know, I really love the whole history of mixing, the whole history of house, of disco, of, you know, old school records, and desperately trying to find new sounds and mash different lyrics into other ones. So I really, especially because I'm mixing disco, and disco is so, you know, it's such a historical genre and such a insane moment in time for a lot of music artists, because it was a time when it was proudly black and gay. And yeah, so paying homage to older ways of mixing, I think it really makes sense for me. But I'm still learning that, and I'm still trying to get better with it every day.
Obviously, like with all the restrictions and everything that's happened, it's been difficult to do like many DJ sets. How have you kind of like dealt with that, and what struggles have you had?
Well, obviously, my first set was like not in a house party or in a really like low key setting, was March 2020, and so I was really like, hell yeah, this is momentum. I'm ready to do this. But to be honest, I think it actually really helped having time where I was just doing mixes and trying to make a name for myself online. Because yeah, I had some time to figure out where I wanted to find tracks from, and, you know, figuring out what kind of styles I enjoy, and what things I want to say with my mixing. And yeah, and it was a real no pressure way to find out what I wanted from the industry. And so like I started off, I produced like a proper mix I was proud of, that was an hour, and it was called the Pick Up the Phone mix, because I incorporated a bunch of tracks about like about phones, about like who's zooming who. I thought it would be a fun thing like during lockdown to chat about communication that way. Then through that, I got a mix that was played on Melodic Distraction, the Liverpool radio station. And then it kind of just spit rolled to like, that's not the right term. Oh my God, spiraled is the words I'm looking for. Oh God. Yeah, it just spiraled into, I was doing, yeah. It started with like a mix every 2 months or 3 months, and then it just carried on until I was doing like a mix every 2 weeks, it felt like. And getting into the flow of constantly producing stuff and tailoring mixes to different venues and different collectives and different outputs. It was really useful to figure out what kind of thing I wanted from it. And through lockdown, I think it was like my third or fourth mix, it was a resident DJ competition for Cirque du Soleil. And I submitted it, and I thought, I'm not gonna get it, but you know, worth a shot. And then August that year, they emailed me saying, "Heads up, you were shortlisted, so we're here to offer you a set at El Dorado Festival." And that I wouldn't have got any of that without having that time to myself to figure out what I wanted to play, and having that time not working to tailor that mix specifically to that company, that collective, that venue. Yeah, I think for a lot of people who are just starting to get into the industry, the whole pandemic has been amazing, because yeah, it allows you time to flourish with your own kind of personal development.
If someone was just looking to get into DJing then, like now, what advice would you give them? Like, where should they start?
Best advice, always know your tracks. It sounds so stupid, but actually knowing where something comes in. I remember I just downloaded a bunch of tracks I thought were cool, and then obviously I would do like terrible mixes because I have no idea when the vocals start and stop and all of that kind of stuff. But also get the swing of the basics before you try to do fun stuff. Like really nail down beat syncing and beat matching, because I had a really hard time with it for some reason, going from a controller to my CDJs now. I had such a hard time getting back into the swing of learning to mix with my ears. And so that kind of stuff, see if you can get rid of your waveforms and actually mix with your ears. Those are the two bits of advice I would give. And also stay sober. Stay sober at your gigs. Or at least like 1 or 2 drinks. Don't be that crazy drunk person.
Yeah, I'd say that's keep that to the experimentation at home.
Yeah. Well, it's just so crazy to me, because the second someone comes on after me and they're smashed, I'm like, oh, okay. I'm a bit nervous now. I'm a bit nervous about what you can spring out. But
yeah, sorry, go on.
Well, I always think, like, I always eat vegan, and I like do everything I can to make sure that my stomach is completely like soothed, and I don't have any worries about food poisoning or anything that's going to distract me from doing a good show. And so, like, I won't drink anything with bubbles in case I need to burp, and that will throw me off. Like, I feel like I'm like if I say prize fighter, that sounds like really big-headed and not what I'm going for. But maybe like, I don't know, maybe like a marathon runner, trying to make sure that my body is ready for me to do a good job.
Yeah, it's definitely important to get into the right zone, like the right mindset. I mean, I've always done the same thing. Like I will drink like after the gig, after I played, but if it's like before I got on, I only have like 2 beers or something max, because I'm like, especially I'm a drummer, so it's like it has to be like dead on the time. So we're actually nearly out of time. It's been really great chatting. Is there anything else you'd like to leave the audience with?
If you're a woman going into DJ, do it. It's sick. It's so much fun. We need more people in the industry, and always know the history of the music you're doing. I think, like, so many genres are so crucial to Black history, and as a white person, you always have to pay some respect to that and know your history, know your herstory, know where everything came from, and produce really cool music, man.
Super. It's been great, Evie. Thanks for your time.
No worries. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for watching. Take care.